part of the theme of our podcast is having this moment where the dark night of the soul, right? You come to a point in your path where you are faced with something where you know you have to make a decision, something has to change. You have to die to yourself in that moment so that you can have the Phoenix energy to come back as who you're supposed to step into. I know that you know in that moment that you can be grateful for it now, but how hard it is when you're actually in it. Now, if you could go back and give that version of you some compassionate piece of advice, what would it be?
Welcome back to another edition of the Pear Genius Podcast, where we share our genius moments with you so that we can all grow. And today we welcome Bev Janisch, the Bev Janisch, one of our favorite people over the last couple of years that we've met. And welcome to the Pear Genius Podcast, Bev.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I always love to see you too.
Yeah, it's awesome. Can you let everybody know a little bit about what you do and what your genius is? And then we're just going to get into it.
Oh, what I do and what my genius is. Well, I am a meditation, a mindfulness teacher, an Enneagram coach, and I'm really passionate about helping, inspiring people to really become the best version of themselves. And I kind of started doing that about over 10 years ago now, after leaving like a 30 plus year career as a nurse, and went on my own journey of self-discovery and who is Bev and what does it truly mean to flourish and be healthy. And since then, I work with others and inspire others to step into the best version of themselves.
That's awesome.
That's
well,
amazing.
You came to the right place, because that's what we're doing constantly, and that's why we're doing this episode in this podcast. And I believe that's why our guests listen too, because we're all trying to discover our genius zones and get away from all the distractions of life. And I was going to say that I don't meditate enough because I find myself distracting myself with things instead of dealing with, okay, how am I going to become the best version of myself?
Yeah, well, you're definitely not alone. And I know I was probably the biggest cynic, I have to say, of meditation. Like when I started, well, over 10 years ago now, where I was that person, well, I can't meditate and what a waste of time. And why do I want to sit there doing nothing is how I viewed it, until I literally did it like 5 minutes. And I was like, I thought truly at that time, I was like, oh my God, really the saddest thing about that really was even sitting there with myself for 5 minutes was hard. And I realized so many things were just about distracting me from myself. So truly, it was 5 minutes that changed my life in some weird way, just really a new trajectory. So I get it. I was the biggest skeptic of why waste my time doing this.
I think there's a lot of people who would say, oh, I'm not going to bother with meditation. I don't have the time, or I can't get into it. It never did anything for me. Is it fair to say that either they're doing it wrong or their perception of it is wrong?
Yeah, I think, Katty, I think you just hit, I think, the nail on the head. It's like people have this perception that there's a lot of misconceptions about meditation, and people that say, well, I can't meditate because I can't stop my mind from thinking is one of the big ones. And that's really not the intention. And really, I think I've got to this point where it's like, well, truly, when we say that we can't meditate, we don't really understand what it is. We don't understand how to do it. We don't understand why to do it. And it's really putting up a big barrier, really, because really meditation isn't really about meditation. It's really about the relationship we have with ourselves. And so it doesn't have to be some big 20 days on a silent meditation retreat and big, huge experiences, but it truly is just about the relationship we have with ourselves. And I think there's the misconceptions, and I think it's almost overwhelming for people right now because there's so many options. There's so many apps and guided meditations. And even my app that I use to time my practice has thousands and thousands of meditations. And where do you even begin? So I think it's overwhelming. People don't know where to begin. There's those misconceptions. So
I'd begin with Bev Janisch.
What's that?
I said that's where I'd begin. I'd begin with Bev right away.
To keep it simple, yeah, to keep it real, and yet also transformative. Like I also don't really think about meditation as it has to be very intentional as well, because we also don't want to spend our time doing something for the sake of doing it without knowing, being intentional. And we can actually, I see it a lot in the spiritual world. There's a lot of kind of using some of these tools and things almost as another distraction. They call it spiritual bypassing. It's like, I'm not going to address the hard stuff about being human, the human parts of us. I'm just going to spiritually bypass it and use my crystals and do this. And those are great. I have my own crystals, but we still have to do the work of being human.
And I think some part of it is the awareness piece, because it's not like you have to sit cross-legged in a dark room. And for me, when I realize that when I walk, I'm actually doing a walking meditation. It's like, that's where I go in and I connect to myself. And when I'm aware of the energy, what it feels like, what does meditation feel like? Well, then when I'm in yoga at the end of class, I'm like, oh, I can drop it and have a little mini meditation right here because I know what it feels like to be in that inner space. So I think awareness is key, I would think, right?
Oh, 100%. Again, I think you just nailed it around that is the whole intention of whether it's mindfulness or meditation or any of these practices. It's about awareness, is becoming aware of our body, aware of our nervous system, aware of our thoughts, aware of our feelings, aware of our habitual beliefs. So it's all about awareness. And then the second part is about being aware, but with kindness. Like, we can be aware and then super hard on ourselves, or super critical, super judgmental, super like beating ourselves up. So it is cultivating awareness, but with kindness. Like, and right there becomes our superpower. We go from reacting to everything, like, and we all know what that's like when we're in a relationship and all of a sudden our buttons get pushed and we react, that.
I know all about that, Bev. She's constantly pushing my buttons.
No, you guys would never know about that.
It's like a nightmare over here. I'm telling you, I'm constantly crying.
It's a nightmare over here. Okay, duly noted.
No, I did want to say this to you, Bev, because it's no accident that you are here today. And I was meditating and I had this download come to me about patience.
Oh.
And it was very profound. And all of a sudden I pictured myself at the grocery store and there's somebody getting a price check, or there's somebody like being intentionally slow in front of me. And I'm watching this. I'm like, this is like my reality is coming forward. This is my constant test of patience. And in my meditation, I was letting people go in front of me and say, I'm not in a hurry. You can go. And then towards the end of the meditation, I'm like paying for the person in front of me. I'm like, oh, you can go. I want to give this to you and go. And I felt so good. And I'm telling this to Katya on the drive home. And I said, oh, it was a really good moment for me. And then all of a sudden, this SUV refuses to turn right in front of me. As I'm telling her this story, I'm like, you son of a bitch, just go. What is the matter with you? And then I'm like, oh, I have to tell Bev this story. This is
that is so awesome. I know that kind of keeps it real. Like,
we had a little laugh about that. It's like, oh, okay. So it wasn't the supermarket. It was the giant SUV that refused to turn as I'm telling the story. Okay.
Oh my God.
We can laugh about this. But I have to I have to keep bringing myself into the moment and realizing that I need to remind myself that these things are going to keep happening until I deal with it properly. And then it'll be a new challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I just finished doing this training, more training, always training through heart math. And I don't know if you're familiar with heart math in the
Yep.
States. And I think there's lots of great messages, but one of the messages as well was like these practices. And what I love about these heart math practices, they're in the moment. They're go-to practices in their moment. So no sitting down, closing your eyes, doing a formal practice. It's like you just described in the grocery store, when you're cut off in traffic, when you're just gonna rip your hair out with your kids, whatever it might be. So these in the moment times where we need these tools. But I love when they talk about every little time we do the practice, like you just described, if we focus on the one in the grocery store, it is starting to build a new normal. It's like we have a set point. Like we have a set point. And so all of these little micro moments build a new set point that becomes the new normal. And so it's pretty cool, really, in terms of even the research about neuroplasticity and all of that stuff. But
So was this the first time that you've heard about heart math?
I'd heard about heart math years ago, and actually I've been doing heart math for years myself.
Okay. So what is it exactly? Just let I'm for the ignorant folks like us out there.
Like what's heart math? So heart math is an institute in the States that has been doing research into the coherence between the heart, the brain, the nervous system, and resilience and dealing with stress and connecting with our intuition. So they've been doing this research, and they have these tools, these practices that people can use in the moment that helps people shift out of this state of fight or flight, or really checking in with where in this moment, where is my energy right now? Am I tired and drained? Am I anxious or angry? Or am I like, where am I? And then tools that really help to shift our states of our nervous system through bringing coherence, like between our heart and our head, our body, our nervous system. Because now we know, and the research shows, all the research and the research they do through heart math and others, is we have more intelligence, more signals going from our heart and our body to our brain than we do from our brain to our body. And so to truly regulate our nervous system to feel more peaceful and more grounded and less anxious and stressed and sleep better and all that, we need approaches that support like the bottom up, like the head down. And so heart math has done some amazing research. And they have the practices. But what I've been doing for years before doing this training was like I have a sensor that actually in real time I use. It's like gives you biofeedback that you clip on your ear. It shows your heart coherence and how actually you're out of coherent.
Oh, I thought you were going to say electroshock therapy.
Yeah, and then shock you. No. It's so cool. Like even my little grandkids, and they're little, but they'll say, because I'll use this biofeedback because they can see their little heart. They can see if they're not in coherence, and they'll say, Nana, can we go do heart math? And it's like, and then they can see through their breathing how they regulate their heart.
Oh, wow.
Coherence and their nervous system. And like if we had more coherence in this world, obviously it would be a lot better for all of us. So yeah. That's a long answer to what heart math is.
Okay.
That sounds like a nice biohack.
Yeah.
I was going to say, so as far as meditation goes, do you think most people, I'm generalizing, but do you think most people do it for physical or mental health or spiritual health? Or is it a combination? What do you find that people come to you most for what benefit?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I always say, it's usually people start or are curious about it for one of three reasons, like you just said, for the physical benefits, for the emotional, mental health benefits, or the spiritual benefits. And when I do like workshops, like I've been doing workshops, a core workshop for the last number of years, where it's a basic learn to meditate workshop. How do you establish a simple practice that is just a few minutes in a day? Why do you do it? How do you do it? How does it affect? So I always ask people in that group. So I've taught like, I don't even know how many people how to meditate, but I always ask that group, like, is it the physical? Is it the emotional? And or is it spiritual? And I think for a lot of people, like not everybody, the spiritual piece, but for most people, it is the physical, the emotional. But for a lot of people, it is the spiritual, like also, not just in the, not from the, not necessarily the religious spiritual, but from the spiritual sense of, I want to feel more connected in the flow of life. I want to be more in touch with my intuition. I want to be more aligned and have synchronicities. So I want that kind of connection. So more from that broader. So I think for more and more people, at least in my realm, I don't do a lot of the corporate stuff. That might be a different kind of focus, where productivity or other things and stress. But for sure, stress as it relates to all of those things. Yeah.
Cool.
That's cool. I'm wondering, like, I know that usually meditation is a solitary practice, but could you bring that into a marriage and have two people come and learn how to meditate together? And are there ways in which that changes their understanding of each other or themselves, and then the marriage going forward?
Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, I think that's truly, like, that's truly the ultimate, really, is like, because we don't meditate, like, we don't meditate to get better at meditation. We meditate to get better at life. And really, what is life? Like, the big part of our life and our happiness and our health is relationships. So I think if when couples or even families, like I'll teach a whole family, I think it is so powerful. It just sets this foundation of both taking ownership of our own nervous system, of our own well-being, but also saying, I care enough about this relationship that I want to be regulated, because so much crap happens, as we know, like in relationships, when we're not regulated and we don't know how to get regulated and be grounded in having challenging discussions. Like, relationships are hard. Like, now they're the source of our greatest joy and also our greatest, at least that's what I have found, our greatest frustration.
I don't think there's anything more frustrating than being at work and being in the most annoying meeting of all time and just wanting to scream at everyone, and you can't. And then you come home and you feel like, well, I'm just going to take it out on my wife because I can't get fired here, which is so backwards, right? It's so backwards. But I would say that most of us do that. We take for granted the person that we're supposed to love the most and not scream at the people that deserve to be screamed at, that are the ones driving us bananas in the workplace, because we want to keep our jobs.
Because, yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. So what have you, like, have you guys ever done that? Like co-meditation together, or not really?
We totally just did on the last episode.
Really?
Yep. It was pretty cool. And you know what's funny? We imagined the exact same place that we
By
were.
accident. Yeah, it was just by accident, but we were both intentional on where that healing space was, and it ended up being the same. And wow, what a crazy, amazing, like, it really sheds light on how strong your bond is with this other person, that it's not just this physical bond, but we have this built up psychic connection, and we're together on so many different planes, and that's really cool to experience.
Wow, that's really cool. Even though you go, okay, that makes sense, it's still cool when you hear it.
It only took 30 years to get
right?
there.
Well, that's pretty good.
Not too.
I feel like we've done meditations together before too, like in other ways, in other situations, but this last one was special.
I'm so hard on myself, Bev. Kathy
You
has all
are?
these profound things, and I'm just like, all I saw were blobs. I just like, I don't know. I always crap all over my intuition and the things that come to me, and but I'm starting to get better. I'm starting to listen to myself more and starting to recognize that so many things that come to me are just these little seeds. I'll usually just get like a word or just a little micro phrase, or I don't know. It's just a little mini pocket of information, and then it gets planted inside me, and then I get to grow it throughout the day. That's the only way I can explain it. Sometimes I have to write it out and write about it, or but I always get just a little seed. And Katya has something
Can I
totally
just
different.
say though, it makes sense for you because you're so earth dominant in your chart that you would get a seed that you have to grow throughout the day. Scorpio would never get that. Like I would never get a seed to grow. That's not my superpower. That's not my wheelhouse.
Okay, so what is it? If you don't get a seed, what do you get?
I get a knowing. Like for me, if I don't feel it in my body, it totally doesn't exist. So when I meditate, I experience all of it. And then it's a knowing. It's like, oh, that information is right there. I didn't read it in a book. I didn't hear it from anybody else. I'm tapping into something way higher than myself. And I trust that energy and I follow it.
Oh, wow. That is a superpower. So you actually follow it.
It is pretty wild. And then later I'll come in, I'll tell her, this is where I heard this from. This is, and she's like, oh yeah, I know, I already knew that. I'm like, what? What do you mean? I needed this expert to tell me
Wow.
this. And she's like, oh no, I already knew that.
Wow, that's so amazing. Maybe that's obviously that links into your creativity superpowers. Like that just for you flows. Like it's just a natural thing of who you are. And it
Yeah,
probably it aligns with that just knowing and having that energy flowing through you to create things that doesn't come naturally to everybody.
right. Without the flow, it doesn't exist for me. And I'm all water. Like my chart is all water. So flow is really important. So for me not to follow through, I'm breaking the flow. And then all of a sudden, I'm just in a mess.
Wow, that's really cool. So you're all water. And Alex, you're earth? Is that what
I'm pretty much the most balanced person you'll ever meet, but I'm
you
just a
are?
little bit more earth than everything else.
Oh, that's cool.
Even when I did my
Whereas
personality test at work, I was like super balanced.
Yeah.
right? Whereas I'm very deficient in air. Now, so that's something I wanted to look at a little bit with meditation because I find that when I'm walking and all of a sudden this gust of wind comes, I'm connected instantly. And I can just sit and meditate for hours in the wind. And because I'm air deficient, I find that the air is there to help me heal and connect. It's
Mhm.
like I needed that deficiency, and then I just recognize it when it comes into my system. And Alex is water deficient, and he gets his downloads in the shower. Like he has to be immersed in water to have that instant connection. So I'm thinking that for meditation, maybe that's helpful to know what your elements are and where you're deficient, and maybe you lean into that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think that all goes back to what you brought up earlier about his awareness and paying attention because and honestly that's really such a good point because I think that is one of the drawbacks of the wonderful thing about meditation becoming so big is that it's become so big because it's such a powerful tool. But the drawback is it's definitely not a one size fits all
Mhm.
approach, and that it really depends on a person's intentions. What is it they need? What is their energy, like you just described? What is their personality? All of those things impact what is going to be the most effective for transformation. Like that's what we
You,
do it for, right?
you know what I would love, Bev? I would love to
What?
do like one of those floating deprivation tanks, like floating
Mm,
in water. I think that would be like the ultimate for me. Have you ever done anything like that?
not one of the floating in water ones, no.
But there's ones where you're not floating in water, but have you done a deprivation tank before?
No,
No,
no.
okay. So when you meditate, is it mostly just in your home? Are you sitting? Like, how do you what's the best way for you to connect?
I have a meditation routine. So first thing in the morning, I do it first thing in the morning, sitting in bed. I usually set the intention to do like a happy hour meditation, like kind of the end of the afternoon, and that feels different after going all day. For me, I usually do it sitting in a chair, but I've meditated pretty much everywhere because that's a thing. Like I think it was Sharon, one of the meditation teachers said that's a thing. Meditation is the best portable device. Meditated in a car, in the woods, in outside, in a hospital room, sitting with my dad when he was dying. Like it just is with you as a tool, as a practice, a way of being. Yeah, so I would say pretty practical that way. In a car, in a doctor's office, in an airport, in an airplane.
So when you're meditating in the car, do you accidentally get to the destination without remembering any of the trip?
Well, if I do an intentional meditation in a car, it's usually if I get to say somewhere I have an appointment and I'm 10 minutes early, I literally might set my meditation timer for 5 minutes. I'm going to do 5 minutes of just like and closing my eyes. So there's the sitting meditation or closing your eyes, but then there's the other practices that are more mindfulness practices doing on the go, like heart focused breathing practice where you're in the grocery store, you're not closing your eyes, you're in the moment and you're connecting in, say, with your breath, and you're breathing a bit slower, a bit deeper. But again, everybody has their own way, whether it's having a meditation space, not having a space, and it's more mobile. But I think the key, regardless of those details, is consistency. Like, it's better to do 5 minutes once a day than like 20 minutes even once a week. Doing it at all is good, but it's still better to do just like the gym. It's better to go consistently than you think you're going to go once a month. And
it's an important biohack. I think that, and that's probably why you're here, because we need to talk about things that they didn't teach us in school that we should be employing in our daily lives and our daily routines to help us, I guess, be the happiest, healthiest, most successful version of ourselves. And why not start your day with a really positive experience where you're just taking some of that quiet time for yourself before you completely overload yourself with your computer and your phone and your kids and your family and your coworkers. And next thing, you have absolutely no time for yourself. And then when you do have time for yourself, you turn on the TV and you're just entertained by that. And meanwhile, you haven't spent any time with yourself in a day.
And that's even so that the relationship with ourselves, but also like all the research about all the health benefits. And it's huge, obviously, with kind of chronic and stress being of huge significance these days, and the huge implications of stress on people's health, from their sleep to their hormones to their digestive systems, immune systems, all of it. All of those simple practice, simple yet powerful, is more and more important. And even realizing the foundation of the impact of dysregulated nervous systems on and being stuck in stress, and the impact on mental health and anxiety and depression. And so it's knowing that, but it's also empowering to go, you know what, there's things I can do to create an environment in my body to heal. And it's not about just having to have the quick fix, but it's more the permanent change, the permanent growth towards greater health at a cellular level, which I think is super exciting and empowering for people.
Oh, for sure. And I think that talking about stress and how all of us are experiencing so much stress right now and how awful it actually feels in our bodies, but that knowledge is power. And not all of us understand our makeup and how we learn and how we take information in. And so I think that's how we bring in the Enneagram, right? Where the more we're informed about who we are, how we interact, the better we can start to go inward and reconnect and heal and bring everything back into homeostasis.
Yeah, so the Enneagram is, it's become a really powerful tool in my toolkit of self-awareness and flourishing and self-actualizing. And the Enneagram is like it's an ancient tool that describes 9 different personality types, and each of us is one of those 9 types. And it has its roots in ancient wisdom, but has been used for the last number of years, also in the world of psychology. So it bridges psychology and spirituality. And each of these our 9 types of our personality has a habit. We have habits of thinking, habits of feeling, habits of doing or behaving. So we have these 3 centers of intelligence, and which is our body, our heart, our emotions, and our mind. This is all aligned with current thinking. And it really helps to show us what we wouldn't be able to see otherwise. We have these personalities that almost become our armor. It's our Brene Brown talks about armor, and she also talks about the Enneagram. So we develop these armors, which is our personality, that enabled us to survive. But our armor at some point prevents us from actually thriving. And that is whether we are for ourselves personally. So I call like our personality over time keeps us disconnected from ourselves in a way. And it also keeps us disconnected in our relationships. So much of our inner stress and also stress in our relationship is caused by our personality that we're not aware of, because that's who we think we are. So the Enneagram is so powerful because it's very practical. It helps us to see the patterns of our thinking, our feeling, our way of doing things, so that we can grow past them. So it doesn't put us in a box. So like in my work, I've developed a framework that is four keys to really unlocking what I call peace and possibility. So peace being an inner feeling of I'm okay, and peace and nervous system, and possibility being my future best self. Who am I meant to become? What is calling me forward to the best version? So I have these 4 keys, and the Enneagram is part of one of those keys. But the first key is self-regulation. We have to regulate. Like we have to regulate our nervous systems. We have to regulate our ability, what we're thinking, feeling. We need to learn to self-regulate is number 1. Number 2 is we have to cultivate self-love, self-compassion. And we can never love truly other people. We can never be in deeply fulfilling relationships. We can never really fully flourish if we don't love ourselves and if we're not compassionate with ourselves. And we certainly can't then flourish with other people. So that's the second key, is self-love, self-compassion.
I would say that's the biggest problem in the world today.
Isn't it though?
You just nailed it. I'm like, and there it is. That's the major thing in the world.
Oh, it truly is. Like it's a big deal. Like self-love, self-compassion. And then when we do that, we can actually love other people, not from a place of this person is going to make me whole, but from we can help each other grow through love, through kindness. So that's the second. The third key is self-discovery. And that's where the Enneagram comes in as a tool. The Enneagram, like this is my habits. This is who I am actually not. This helps me to see my armor that is over time suffocates me and shows and isn't good in our relationship until we see it.
It's like we're hermit crabs. As soon as you said that, I'm like, oh, we're just hermit crabs, and we just got to grow and move on to the next shell.
Yeah, like we do. We are. We have to just like shed. That's the whole thing of transformation. And like that's what this whole process is. And then the fourth key is self-expression. Like now that I am regulated, my nervous system, and I love myself, and I know who I am, like, and who I'm not, now I can bring that best version of myself to the world. I can share my gifts authentically. I can show up in my relationships authentically. It's like I can self-actualize ultimately. And that's like, to me, that's the whole journey of transformation, self-actualization.
That made me think of just an actual superhero, like a real life superhero is somebody that can do all those things. And then they go out into the world and then just blow people away with their awesomeness. That's what I want to be. That lights up my heart thinking about that.
Well, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
Who, me?
Yeah.
I barely even love myself. I'm still on stage 2.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing. It's not linear, but
I got to work on myself still. But that's why we do this. This lights up my heart.
But even the fact that you say that is like, that's amazing. It's like truly amazing. Very inspiring.
Let's talk about this Enneagram, because I'm really right now in the middle of my astrological deep dive. Like, this is something that's really inspiring me right now. I'm not a big knowledge person, whereas I don't go outwards to look for knowledge, but for some reason, this is the direction I'm being called. So learning the archetypes, the 12 archetypes. So the Enneagram has 9 archetypes. Are they similar to the astrology ones?
I don't know the astrology ones. So it would be super interesting to know. Like, I don't know a lot about.
I want to know, how are they related? What's going on here?
I know.
Okay, so what is your sun sign, Bev?
That just shows how little I know about astrology. I don't know what it is.
Do you know your birthday?
I know my birthday. Can you tell me?
What day were you born on?
I was January 21st.
There you go.
So January 21st is, I think, Aquarius. I think we're
I'm
right
Aquarius.
on
Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That just shows. Yes, my sign. I didn't know that's a sun sign. I'm Aquarius.
Perfect. Okay. Yes. So right there. So Aquarius in itself, whether it's your sun sign or not, it's an archetype.
Okay.
So you can tap it. All of us have all the archetypes within us. We have all 12. However, wherever the sun was the minute that we were born, and now all of a sudden there's our sun sign, right? So you have the Aquarian energy. So I'm thinking, because as the thinker, it's air, right? And then we have the 4 elements, and there must be that energy within the Enneagram, right?
The energy within the Enneagram. I think now I know more about, and I don't know much about, but I do know more about human design and energy around that. So I think the Enneagram truly is more about understanding our personality, ego structure.
I did the Enneagram a while ago, Bev, and I think I was a 6. What does that mean?
Oh, do you think you were a 6?
I believe I was a 6 when I did it.
You think you were a 6? Okay, so
what do you think I am? I'm probably a 2.
Well, okay, why do you say that? You're probably a 2.
No, I'm just going by memory. I believe when I took it, I believe I was the number 6.
A 6 is like, would you say are you a warrior?
A warrior? Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like
you
I
do
worry? Oh, yeah. Like that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, it is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's my whole life, just worrying about stuff.
Okay, so you worry.
Warrior or warrior?
Warrior, like
warrior.
Warrior.
Yeah, I worry about everything.
You do worry about everything,
Yeah, yeah.
and you don't like things to be unpredictable or
Right.
right? Okay.
Yeah, I told you I'm a 6.
Okay. And you're like a thinker.
Oh, big time, yeah. See, I told you I'm a
Okay.
6. Yeah.
Okay. So you're a six. Okay. So that's such a perfect example of somebody that is a six, for example. Okay. And I'm a nine. So I'm like the peacemaker. I avoid conflict.
Oh, that's me too.
Is that you too?
I do that
Yeah.
too,
Well, that
yeah.
would make sense. And these habits, ways of being, the warrior for you, for me, the peacemaker, avoiding conflict. I mean, they work until they don't work anymore. So a lot of times someone who is a six, a lot of times people who are like a type six, for example, and they're the loyalist, they're very loyal. Yes, very loyal, really have an over reliance on the thinking, their thinking superpower. And so, but then what happens for all of us is we get out of balance in terms of these centers of intelligence. So we have a body, and like you said earlier, like, oh, I'm trying to trust my gut, trust
Hmm.
your. And you know what's so fascinating? Do you know what the growth path for a type six is?
No.
Is trusting your gut, like getting out of your head that you're trying to think through, think all the scenarios. And so for people with a type six, it's really common to have anxiety, like fear,
Yep.
fear.
So it's funny that you said that because that's actually what I'm working on. I'm getting way out of my mind lately. Like I'm actually giving most of my thoughts no power whatsoever. And I'm going more into my heart and into my gut, which
Oh my
is
God.
totally not my style, but I'm actually enjoying it so much more. Like I worry so much less now.
Wow. So you just described what the Enneagram shows you, but it helps us to do it consciously. When you can start knowing you had this
Mm.
habit
It's
of thinking,
empowering.
but I am going to cultivate my heart qualities. I'm going to cultivate my gut. And the other interesting thing about the Enneagram is it has different instincts. So we're animals at our core. Like, so we have instincts in us, and there's three core instincts we all have. One is self-preservation or survival, one is social, with being part of a community. The third is either one-on-one or sexual. The
Yes. That's my
energy
favorite.
of creation to create.
Okay.
So it really helps us. And again, those instincts get out of balance in us. So I think it's back to what you were asking, Kathy, about it is all about energy because ultimately we want to balance the energy because we are ultimately all energy.
And
So,
as you were describing the six, I'm like, well, that lines up perfectly with Virgo, which is his sun sign. So I think that maybe they
ooh,
do actually correlate pretty well once you start comparing them.
I bet you they really would because it's fascinating how these tools and astrology, obviously being ancient tools, whether it's esoteric astrology or numerology or whatever it might be, they all have their roots in ancient wisdom. And so you go back and they're all, if you did a study of them, like definitely we would see how it's all related.
So, Bev, how do I find out? Like, let's say this is the first time I'm doing the Enneagram. What kind of information am I inputting in order to find out what number I am?
Well, there's a couple things. There's lots of tests out there. So there's lots of tests. There's lots of books. There's lots of YouTube videos. But so
I don't care about that stuff. I just care about Bev Janisch. I need her to
you
share the
should,
Enneagram with me, and that's
and
it.
then
This
there's
it's the
like,
only person for Enneagram.
and then there's Enneagram practitioners that like I do typing an interview where we go through it all. But then also that's about, okay, what does this really mean? How does this help me to grow? How does this help me? So some people use it again as just getting more information, and it can be dangerous. Like the point is not to go to become more like I am a
Mm.
this. The point is really, no, I am not. That's who I needed to be to survive, but that ends up suffocating me and I need to grow. So there's online tests, there's tons of videos, there's tons of books, and it depends how deep people want to get
Right.
in.
Because when I did the Enneagram and I looked at that, it's like worrier, anxiety. I'm like, I don't like those things. Those are the things that I'm not that. I just happen to have these things. It's just pointing it out, right? It's shining the light on the things. And it's like, oh yeah, I check off that box, that box. But it's empowering to know that's not you. That's not what you are. It's just it's that shell that you need to outgrow.
Right. And so it to me, they go like meditation and the Enneagram complement each other so well. And because you, for example, is a type 6 who tends to have more anxiety and stuck in your head and worrying, and your growth path and what practices might resonate for you are going to be different than someone like me as a type 9, really disconnected from my body, disconnected from my life force energy, not able to even know what my own goals are. And how did I get into my crisis of my dark night of the soul over 10 years ago? Was because of my personality. My personality got me going along, going with the flow, don't want to have my own agenda, my own dreams, my own goals, my own this. Till all of a sudden I'm like, well, I am on a path, but it's not my path. And my soul, if you don't believe in that, is like you're not being true to yourself. Well, who is myself? So it really helps when you can see the patterns, or even in your marriage, like I had just like we've been married like over 40 years, and like you guys, we were like high school sweethearts. And it was almost really sad to me just a few years ago when I learned the Enneagram and I learned about my husband's Enneagram number. And I was like, oh my God, like you see the world like that. And I never knew like that because he has this inner critic that he's never good enough. He's a perfectionist, never good enough. Never. And he was thinking I'm either a type 6 or a type 1. But the key to the Enneagram is the question is what motivates a person. So the behaviors, his behaviors might look, and he has anxiety. And so it might look like a type 6, but what motivates him is different than what motivates you. Like he's motivated to be perfect, to be right, to do like that. You're motivated probably to be safe, to have more certainty. Like, so
Yeah, I'm motivated by it to be loved
to be loved.
and creating a safe place. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was sad. Like,
Sure,
and I'll
yeah.
tell you what that did for our relationship was huge. It literally, it's like, oh my God, it explains all these arguments over the years and how we just could not understand each other's. And I was like, and now he's like, well, he can see how I would go with the flow. And in the process of doing that, how I lost myself. And because of my personality.
It's not easy when you don't understand that people aren't like you. I had this moment in my 30s where we did these like experiments or these like activities, and I look around, I'm like, oh my God, nobody thinks the exact same way as I do. What's wrong with them? And but like to what you're saying with your husband, it's like if you don't know these things, you can't understand why they're going through this hell when you're not going through that hell.
Right. Or there's certain things. And even with my own kids now, I'm like, oh my God, I understand. They don't like that I look at it this way, and I keep it to myself, but at least I am like, okay, I get it. I understand.
It's your superpower.
That is my superpower. Yeah, connecting all the dots, except the astrology dot, because I haven't gone down that rabbit hole. It would be dangerous if I did, because then I'm already like to figure everything out.
Right.
And what about you, Patty? Do you know about your Enneagram, your personality number, your
You know what? I know I did it and it resonated, and I'll be damned if I can remember.
I think you're a
really?
one.
Why do you think one?
I think that you're a one. I just, for some reason, remember that because I was either thinking like I would be like a six or a 10. And then I'm pretty sure you're a one, like the perfectionist. As soon as Bev said that, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's you.
Yeah, but
Perfectionist.
for some reason, my gut is telling me four. And I don't know. I don't even know what that means.
See, we should have done our homework. We should have
I
done them
think my
again.
my dad is telling me that too. Only you would know, but there is a type 4 that has perfectionist like tendencies, again, depending on that instinct. But
We're not the same
it's
number.
all
I remember. I just know that we're not the same. And you're a nine, Bev.
I am a 9. Yeah.
Is nine better? Which one's the
What's
best?
that?
Which one's the best number? Like, who do you want? Who
Well,
should you be?
and we're all like, the thing is, what is about it was we all have our superpowers. And then we all have which our number gives us, but then we also have the ways we get out of balance. And then
Mm.
that becomes our shadow, the part that we are like, it's cool spiritually. It's like it becomes what's called your soul child in a way, the part of you. We all had to leave a part of us behind in childhood. And that's the part we need to reintegrate. So, interestingly, like the soul child, for a 9 for me, that I have to reintegrate is another number that I had to leave behind. And then it also shows our spiritual growth. Once I've integrated that part of myself, I had to leave behind because it wasn't okay. Then I am called to grow into the next version of myself. And the Enneagram kind of shows you that path. It's literally gives you the lines. So it's so empowering.
Yeah, when you were saying that earlier, when you're like floating through life and you're so disconnected from your body, that hurt my heart because I'm so the opposite. I'm just so just grounded and I could never just be a dreamer. I couldn't even accept the fact that I could dream these big things. Everything just had to be extremely practical. And there was a part of me that wished that I could be this dreamer and make miracles happen. And it's so weird being the opposite, like extreme opposite. And so I really resonated when you said that because it's like we have this longing for the other. But yeah, it's weird being the star of somebody else's show and then waking up to that and then taking it back and say, "No, okay, now it's time to start my show again." And here we go. So I feel like you've done that now.
Yeah, I think that's for me what the dark night of the soul was about. And it's not easy because when you're in relationships with people, interesting, some personality types, when people start doing the work to see that their habits, people around them go, oh, thank God, like they're not as angry or aggressive or domineering or bossy or whatever their habit is. And then there's those that are usually more go with the flow, the people pleasers, even the archetype of what it means to be a good woman. Well, as soon as those things you're letting go and you're stepping into your power and you have a voice and you're like, well, I'm not going to go along with that flow anymore. Like change in those instances requires courage. It requires courage in all. But so it's not all like, oh, because all of a sudden you're upsetting this balance of
Well, yeah, because if you're a woman, you're all of a sudden you're just this bitch that's like rocking the boat. And but if you're a man, you're like, oh, you're being assertive, you're being strong. But if a woman does it, it's like, oh, geez, who the hell's that?
but for men though, and for my own husband, like who is the very in his mind, the way he's brought up, that can't have emotions. And part of that is culture, his conditioning as a man. Part of it's his own personality as a type 1 that has to suppress emotions. So you have a man that's told, oh, you're not supposed to be emotional. You got to
Mm.
be tough and on top, then you have a personality layered on there that you are disconnected from your feelings, and then you get in a relationship, and those balances, like that creates an imbalance. Like if you're disconnected from your heart in relationships, that can be difficult. And because it's truly through our heart. So for men, they have a whole other challenge of like when they're needing to connect with their heart and bring those qualities of kindness and compassion and more the feminine qualities, that's not easy. And then they can have the inner turmoil of they have their conditioning for some men that are heart-based, because there's as many men that have heart-based personalities that are compassionate, that are deeply caring, but then culturally or gender-wise is like, well, that's not okay. So then that creates inner friction.
Sure. Yeah, I would say that I'm like that. I'm pretty compassionate. I take care of the family. I would say that I'm like, when everybody's sick, I'm the guy. I am the guy that takes care of everybody. But at the same time, I guess Katya could vouch for me. Like, I don't think that I show that to anybody else, really. Like, I
I
would
don't
keep
know.
that
You're pretty
private.
caring with everybody.
Oh, really? Okay. See, what do I know about myself? If I
I mean,
had,
that's why you're podcasting, not just like on Pear Genius, but on Firmamental. You create, first of all, a safe space. And then through your compassion and understanding and love, you allow people to open up and tell deeply personal stories. So I think you are that way.
oh wow, I was going to tell Bev a quick story that I didn't even realize it happened to me. It was subconscious. But now that you were talking, I'm like, I was reading this book, East of Eden, and there's this part where this young man sits across from this other guy, and he asks to be mentored in a way so that he could help save his family's farm. And I'm like, that for some reason, I just equated that to me and your husband, that I would want to talk to him about business because he seems like a very good businessman, somebody that I'd want to talk to. But I was like, oh, I just had it pop back into my mind as I was reading. It was like a totally subconscious thing where I pictured myself talking to him, and I've never even met him.
Wow, he is a good businessman, and it is interesting because of my dark night of the soul, which then became our dark night of the soul in our relationship. Like me stepping more into my own power and my own life force energy, and him stepping into his heart, his emotions. And like you said earlier, like he's doing this new business venture right now. And he's like the biggest change for him now. It was always think it through in his head. And now he goes, but I'm listening to my gut. Like I'm really listening. And that's really different. And he goes, and that's so fun. And no, he's coordinating a team. And it's actually mostly women. And he's bringing this emotional intelligence to it that he never really had.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like, so to me, back to the Enneagram in terms of a map, when you can cultivate those superpowers of your head for your intelligence to execute things that come from your soul and your gut and your heart. So you have the intelligence from the mind, the higher intelligence. You have the heart, the compassion, the caring, the connection with other human beings, and the gut, the knowing, the life force energy that comes through your body to bring it forth is like, that's so amazing that we can use those intelligences.
For sure. And the hardest part is just the first step. Once you take that first step and you actually do it, and then you have somebody like Bev in your life to help navigate you through, away you go. You start becoming a better version of yourself. And it's never too late, right?
Never too late.
And part of the theme of our podcast is having this moment where the dark night of the soul, right? You come to a point in your path where you are faced with something where you know you have to make a decision. Something has to change. You have to die to yourself in that moment so that you can have the phoenix energy to come back as who you're supposed to step into. I know that you know in that moment that you can be grateful for it now, but how hard it is when you're actually in it. Now, if you could go back and give that version of you some compassionate piece of advice, what would it be?
I think the compassionate piece of advice would be to just trust. To just trust the process, trust the journey, trust that it's going to be okay and better than okay. Yeah, I would say trust.
That's really nice. I think that if more people could trust that it's going to be okay, just knowing that, yes, you're in the thick of it, it's hard, it's dark, it's scary, but that it's part of the human journey. We're meant to face the dragon, we're meant to slay the dragon, and then whatever knowledge we acquire through that transformation, we're meant to share it back into the collective. So not to necessarily make it easier for the next person, but to open their hearts to be more compassionate with themselves. I think that's really the key, is bringing it back and being compassionate with yourself through everything.
Yeah, and I think what you...
Oh, sorry, Bev. I was just going to say that I could picture Bev telling her younger self, like telling her heart to have faith in yourself.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh man, I almost started crying. I was like, that's so beautiful to have faith in yourself.
To have faith in yourself in the journey. And I think, Katty, too, that's so beautiful, like about bringing it back is, and like even what you do with this podcast, which makes me emotional, is when you do that, people will feel like they're not all alone. Probably one of the most watched podcast, well, it's not a podcast, videos, a YouTube video did, is when I interviewed a psychologist about her journey through the dark night of the soul. And it's the most watched video on YouTube, on my YouTube, because people watch that and they go, I'm not alone. And how often we feel, and I know when I've gone through my own dark night of the soul, how it became such a mantra, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person. Because in that time, you feel like you're the only person that has gone through this or that, and you feel so alone. So back to what you said about compassion, that's compassion. So when you share these stories that you share, like through your podcast, is people feel less alone.
Yep, 100%.
So what's the moral of the story, Bev? What's the moral of your story?
What's the moral of your story? Yeah.
What's the moral?
Yeah, what's the moral of your story?
I think that the moral really of my story is to like follow my soul, even though it's hard, even though it sometimes goes against the grain of, it's hard to let go of conditioning and people pleasing and sometimes just going with the flow that's other people's flow. So just follow my soul. Don't lose touch with it. Use it. That's my guiding light.
That's so perfect, because it brings it back full circle to meditation, because I can hear everybody else saying, but how do you follow your soul? Meditate.
Yeah. Meditate. And through those 4 things that we talked about.
I was just picturing your soul being very fast, Bev, and trying to keep up with it.
Fast.
Yeah. It's like whew, all over the place, and you're just trying to keep up with it because it's on this big adventure.
Well, and I see you guys' soul is being very creative with what you're doing. Yeah.
It's true.
It makes us happy.
That's amazing. It's always amazing to me how you can work together so well and bring out the best in each other and create these things together. It's very inspiring.
You know what the secret is, Bev?
What?
We shed our hermit crab shells at the same time.
You actually do?
And I'm telling you, that's got to be it. That's our genius moment. We shed when it's time, and we both shed our shells at the same time, and then we start growing. None of us we don't hold each other back and we don't stop each other from growing. We continue to grow together, which is boom, that's it right there.
I think you just nailed it. Like, if anyone would ever want to ask, what is the recipe? How do you follow your soul? And how do you follow it in your relation? You just nailed it right there. You, yeah, like
Yeah.
you create this space, you support each other's growth, you don't stop each other from growing, even though sometimes that's hard. And you like that's pretty amazing.
And I was going to say that I think a lot of relationships probably fail because of maybe jealousy. Like one person's doing better than the other, they're elevating, and the other person maybe doesn't want to change or is stuck in their ways. And I just, whenever I need a kick in the ass, I get a kick in the ass. And whenever she needs to get picked up, I pick her up. But we don't leave each other behind. There's a few days where we're both pretty low, and those are really sucky days. But for the most part, one of us is up and the other one might be down, but the other one helps the other get back up, and because the mission's not over. There's so much growing to do. That's what makes life fun and amazing.
So I have a question for you guys about that because that's so amazing, that's so inspiring, and not most people don't have that necessarily. So how have you managed to evolve your communication around, like, are you just naturally good communicators together that you could get to, like, how have you managed the communication around talking about this tough stuff? And
I am such a people pleaser that I almost need Kati to let it get so bad that she eventually says something. But I would say that Kati is more or less the catalyst. When it's time to really burn it down, she will burn it down. And I'm just getting used to it over time. The first couple of times I was horrified that everything's just getting torched. And I'm like, oh my God, all my stability, like everything that I've built in my practical life, it's just up in flames. And the more that she does it, the less, like, I'm just super going with the flow now. My roots are not very deep. It's okay if we have to like pick up and do something different. I'm okay with it now. But I would say it was way more painful in the beginning. Very painful to get me to change, to get me to be the man that I needed to be. That's the beauty of, I'm answering a lot of questions here, but that's the beauty of Kati. She sees my soul, and she sees my soul sometimes better than I do. So she doesn't see who I was when I was 20. She sees me when I'm like 60 or 70, and she's just helping me get to that man. And I would say that I see the same in her. I see the diamond in the rough, and I just go about it differently. I don't burn the whole village down. I'll let her answer her part now.
You talk about communication. This is not coincidence either. Our souls perfectly planned that we would meet each other at 15 because I needed somebody who provided unconditional love. That was something I didn't know as a child. It was something I couldn't do for myself. And he was my major lesson in unconditional love. Now, the tricky thing with that is that I almost have permission to do and say whatever I want, and I know he's going to love me anyway. So that took some refinement on my part, knowing that, yes, okay, I see that something has to change, but I need to soften in the way that the message is delivered. I can't always destroy. I am a Scorpio. Pluto rules my entire existence. Like, I would love to have everybody die to themselves over and over because I know the potential in being reborn through Phoenix energy. Like, I think that so much of my purpose is tied to that, but I have to find a better way to deliver it. And thank God I have this beautiful, grounded Virgo who creates safe space for me to explode when I need to explode. But I'll say that some of that too is that I've created safe space for him to grow into who he has to be. I think communication comes back to creating safe space. You have to have that so that you can have these moments of upheaval.
yeah. Oh, wow. And like it goes back to, I think, even full circle to what you started at the very beginning when we were talking about meditating together isn't about meditating together. It's about Co-regulation. Co-regulation is you start with the foundation of being safe with each other. Like that has to be the foundation for all growth. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say, Bev, when you said that, I'm like, oh, that is a huge key for me too. I didn't even realize it, but like self-regulation, like when she's dropping these nukes on me, I start feeling like a volcano. Like I feel this insane heat, and not in a good way. Like it's like I'll become unhinged, and I don't want that. So I didn't realize that I needed to regulate because I've joked about this on the podcast where whenever I get my shit sandwich from her, I go and I eat my shit sandwich in the garage by myself and I'll hit some wood and but I didn't realize that I'm regulating that love, that hurtful love that she gave me that I needed, the hard thing that I needed to hear. And I'm like trying to process it through the garage. And when I cool down, I'm like, oh my God. As soon as I cool down, I'm like, that's exactly what I need to hear. I just didn't know how to process it. And then I'll come back in and I'll tell her I love her and I'll hug her. And meanwhile, she doesn't need to know what I did in the garage. She doesn't need to know the hell I went through. But once it's all burned off, to me, that's one of my miracles. And not getting angry with her as soon as she delivers it, but to go away and let this magic happen, whatever she just did to me. Man, I'm telling you, if I could bottle that for people, I would sell it, make a fortune.
wow, that's so cool.
It doesn't feel cool though when she does it to me.
Well, I know my husband would probably say he would feel the same way. Well, and knowing that he is a same thing, he's very much of a people pleaser. He tries to be perfect. So whenever I say, oh, we have to talk, which is very hard because I avoid conflict. So that takes a lot.
Right.
Him, I know, complete anxiety in that moment. Like, oh my God. And yeah, but it's pretty cool. You guys are really inspiring to have evolved like from knowing each other as teenagers. And I'm going to now have to interview you guys.
Well, it helps to know people
Right.
like you, right? It's
I'm gonna interview you guys about what a soul-based relationship actually looks like and feels like, and that it is possible and it takes work.
oh
Oh
man,
boy, does it ever.
we could go on tour to universities and give that man, if we could give that knowledge to young people, they'd be so far ahead. I feel like we do have this magic potion, and when you bring awareness, all these different awarenesses to young people, oh my goodness, it's like having steroids. All of a sudden you have this relationship steroids. You just have all these tools in your toolbox that people have waited 30 years to acquire.
I'm gonna interview you guys if you'd let me.
Of course, of
Of
course.
course.
And put it on my YouTube about it. What does a soul-based relationship look like? And how do you
I'm
evolve it to that? And
I'm glad you asked because honestly, like I think that's a deep question and that's going to require some deep meditation so that
yeah,
we can answer it properly.
yeah. Well, I think that the universe has given us a little wink because I just got an email this week from someone from one of my blogs. He's obviously a younger man in a relationship that is totally in love with this woman but he's feeling like something's missing, but he doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know, does this mean I'm supposed to leave her to go find someone else? And this is just a little email, right? It was
Hmm.
just, but his heart is hurting, right? He's just, so I think it truly people need when they have evolved to a place in a relationship that they truly, like you guys have. I think the more that journey is shared with other people, I think the more inspiring it is. So,
I think you're right. I'm looking forward to thinking on that a whole bunch. But having said that, we come now to the place in the podcast where I have to ask you a question that the last guest left for you. So we'll be
oh,
asking you for a question too for the next guest.
okay.
So, what lights your pilot light? What internally plugs you back in? So, I like this idea of having a pilot light. So, what keeps that light on for you?
I would say, what keeps that on for me is I'd say balance. I say balance between the things that help my vitality, like going to the gym. That just, I am with other people and the music's good. Like I feel my life force energy moving. Then the other part of the balance for me would be my heart balance around my relationships and really valuing those and never taking them for granted. And then the third part of that balance would be having then the energy to focus on what feels meaningful and purposeful, which for me is kind of making the world a better place in my own small little way. So those three together are what keep that pilot light for me really glowing when I keep the balance.
I love that because the way you answered it is so multidimensional. It's so much better than asking somebody, what's your joy? What do you do for fun? Oh my God, this is so much better because it really requires you to look at every part of your life because that is everything. So that's a beautiful answer.
And I think we take for granted balance. You know, like yesterday I felt like crap. I had like the sinus headache, and I'm honestly 99.9% of the time I feel perfect. There's no part of me that hurts. And if something doesn't feel right, I'm so out of balance right away. And I'm just longing as hard as I can for that perfect balance, that feeling of just perfect health. To me, my health is everything. So if something is just a little bit off, it bothers me. So when you said balance, I'm like, yeah, that's totally me. I would love that, to have like all these things balanced around me. And then my wife come in and like flip the table over. Okay, that's enough balance for you.
You know what, dear? You and I are going to have a conversation about how you're portraying me.
We'll do that on Bev's interview.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, they're going to get all the dirty on that interview. Don't worry. That's the beauty of us, Bev. We're pretty honest. So
I know. That's what I love about you guys.
But there was a part 2 to that question, right? What plugs you in?
No, she answered the whole thing. That was
Oh,
perfect.
did she? Oh, I thought there was a
Yeah.
second part. What plugs you in? Okay.
It was just further explanation for people who didn't get it, but Bev got it right away.
Oh, Bev, you're awesome. So what is your question for the next person?
Oh, I have to think of it right now.
Oh, yeah, big time. But
Oh,
it has to be intuitive, as if you
okay.
meditated on it.
What inspires you to become the best version of yourself?
Oh, I love that. That's such a
Okay.
Bev Janisch question.
Yeah, right?
That's perfect. See, I told you, Bev, 90 minutes and it just flew.
Oh my gosh.
You are too
Wow.
much fun. You are too much fun to be with.
You guys are too much. You guys are amazing.
Well, I just am going to open up the floor quickly to you so that everybody can reach out to you and find you. What are the best ways? And I'll put the links in the show as well.
Yeah, probably through my website at bevjanisch.com.
I'll spell it for everybody.
Yeah, bevjanisch.com, or I'm on Instagram at bev.janisch.meditation, but probably through my website, bevjanisch.com.
Awesome. And with that, we're going to thank everybody for our amazing guest, Bev Janisch, for sharing her genius with us. And for everybody at home, we just want to remind you to keep living your genius. And we're going to see you on the next episode. Thanks for hanging out with us.